Hari Sundarananda Mukunda, Hari Narayana Hari Om, Hari Sundarananda Mukunda, Hari Narayana Hari Om, Hari Keshava Hari Govinda, Hari Narayana Hari Om, Hari Keshava Hari Govinda, Hari Narayana Hari Om, Hari Sundarananda Mukunda, Hari Narayana Hari Om, Hari Sundarananda Mukunda, Hari Narayana Hari Om, Hari Keshava Hari Govinda, Hari Narayana Hari Om, Hari Keshava Hari Govinda, Hari Narayana Hari Om, Hari Sundarananda Mukunda. Good morning all. So yeah, just imagine I had to travel on a journey. I had to take an entire journey to the country of our former colonial masters. Just imagine I had to travel to the country of our former colonial masters for me to make videos teaching about sociology, government control, healing, becoming better persons morally, right? Because my own government, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, don't understand what is morality. And secondly, I applied, as I said, to teach sociology since about 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. And we are in the year 2023. Now I'm traveling back in time. We are in the year 2023. And I haven't gotten called to teach sociology when I'm damn well qualified to do so, right? But that's okay. I will go. And it reminds me of when the said government of my own country blocked me from traveling to India, the country of my cultural and social and historical origins, right? When I was the only one, whilst I was working at said government, I was the only one. Forgive my short breathing, I just doing a little walk. When I was the only one qualified in my government office, it was a specialized department that I worked at the time, and the opportunity had come up for me to travel to India to a conference, and I was the only one in the particular ministry qualified to do so, right? I was the one specialized in that particular field of work, right? And I would have submitted my request to go on this trip to India, of which India was sponsoring the entire trip. The country India was sponsoring the entire trip, and the only cost that the government was required to cover was $2,000 TT dollars. $2,000 TT dollars. And at the time, the head government official, wrote back and said that the government does not have money to facilitate my trip, right? That the government does not have money, 2,000 TT for a whole government, right? To facilitate my trip, when just the week before they were sponsoring trips to Switzerland, they were sponsoring trips to here in England, they were sponsoring trips to the US, right? But the problem is that the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago just feel people dumb and dotish. Dumb and dotish, for those who might be looking at my videos and are not local. Dumb and dotish simply means being the stupidest person on earth, right? The government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago seems to think that some people are just dotish, right? So that's okay. Somehow government money ends up sponsoring my trip, right? Thanks to my father and my aunt for sponsoring my trips. I mean, both of them would have served the government at some point, right? So government ends up paying for my trip, right? So today, and just imagine, right? I would have had to travel to the place of our colonial rule, to the place of our colonial rule, to teach a subject that in my own country I didn't even get a call back from the government for about 8 years, right? But that's okay. I will travel to England, which I am here now, and I will teach macro and micro sociology outside of your government system, right? I will teach micro and macro sociology. In fact, I've been teaching macro sociology for the longest while, right? I've been demonstrating how through teaching of the natural and spiritual laws, how all the mainstream institutions exist to manipulate and control us. I've went at length, right? So microsociology deals with our interactions on a day-to-day basis and how we can actually become empowered through our own day-to-day actions to create change rather than being victims of these mainstream institutions, right? That's essentially what microsociology is. So whilst macrosociology deals with the bigger control systems, the bigger mechanisms of control, government, media, all these organizations, microsociology deals with how we can empower ourselves through our day-to-day actions, through taking the path of non-violence. Remember, I was saying at one point, all I wanted to do in this life is to create a spiritual sociology. Create a spiritual sociology, right? Because that's the only way that sociology can advance. The only true way that sociology can advance, sociology could be a dead-end career, and that is what people, academic career, and that is what it has become, especially locally back home, right? With the dwindling numbers and so on, doing sociology, pursuing sociology, especially at the master's level and so on. There was a time when I was asked by one of my lecturers to, they had this interview about asking postgraduate students about how sociology can be improved and so on, right? There was this interview, that's when I was doing my master's. But back then I didn't really care to attend that interview, and I just lied and said I had a work meeting or something, right? But anyhow, they had this interview asking students about how they think sociology can be improved, right? First of all, it starts with the lecturers. You all need to make a damn change, right? Stop teaching local people, stop teaching them that the white man is responsible for all the issues in the world, right? Past history is freaking history, and it's about time we move the fuck on, right? Past is past, history is history, and once we have gathered, and it is true that we need to know our past to know where we are going, but we already came to understanding of our past. We have already came to an understanding, a definite understanding that, hey, my ancestors were a product of slavery, indentureship, whatever, right? Now, let us just move on, right? How can we just move on after all that psychological, sociological trauma, social and psychological trauma, right? The part of moving on requires you to understand how natural or spiritual law is tied into sociology, and how the only way that sociology could actually advance, and anthropology and so on, the only way that sociology could actually advance, right, is through the teaching of natural law with sociology, right? Now this is extremely groundbreaking, and I hope that whoever steals this idea gives me credit for it, honestly. Not that I'm looking for credit, but one must give credit where credit is due, right? Because I do that all the time, right? For example, my learning of natural law, which is inherent in me already, but with regard to government and so on, I would have been inspired by my spiritual teacher, who is Mark Passio, right? And it is, and so if anybody uses my work, which they are free to do so, especially if it's like things that have not already been applied, just to at least acknowledge, right? Because that's what this whole plagiarism thing is about, and plagiarism is a big deal in sociology itself, right? Plagiarism is a big deal in sociology itself. It shouldn't be plagiarizing people's ideas and work, right? So anyhow, my suggestion as to how to advance sociology is teaching the spiritual laws together with, so because spiritual law and sociology actually does go hand in hand. A lot of the teachings of natural law actually does align with sociology, right? Yeah, a lot of the teachings from natural law does actually fit neatly into sociology. The issue with sociology is that, like everything else, like with everything else, it gets corrupted because of manipulation tactics, because of the higher ups, because people want to manipulate academia in order to maximize their own benefits overall, things that we don't even know that is taking place. The engineering of chaos, the manufacturing of consent, which is also a concept in sociology. I can't remember if it's Anthony Giddens or one of them spoke about that, the manufacturing of consent, right? In which we police our own self and give consent to the authority to rule us, right? So in some instances, there might not even be a need for police and authority and stuff, because we have adopted the police way of policing ourselves and policing others, such that in some areas of the world or in some situations, we might not even need the police, because we have already policed ourselves to police ourselves the way that police us, right? This conversation is about micro-sociology, which is the day-to-day interactions that people participate in that could actually help them to liberate themselves. And this also ties into healing. The pathway of non-violence, which is aligning with the natural law, is one of the ways in which we can integrate that, because natural law alignment deals with changing yourself, change behavior. Natural law, aligning with natural law, deals with changing your behavioral patterns on a day-to-day basis, right? Which is micro-sociology, which is the essence of micro-sociology. Change personal behavior to create social or structural change, right? So the pathway of non-violence, giving up or eliminating meat from your diet, one, right, as a pathway to non-violence, and also micro-sociology, because you are personally making that change. Things like excessive drinking, excessive alcohol consumption. You are not harming anybody else if you take a drink, right? So by all means, you are damaging your own body if you excessively consume alcohol. So you feel free to do that if you want to damage your body. But the advisable thing to do from a spiritual perspective and a healing perspective is to not over-consume alcohol, right? And the same goes with smoking, or you are damaging people if you smoke publicly, right? Public smoking, secondhand smoke and all that. And secondly, you are more so damaging your own self, your own internal organs, your own spirituality, your own lungs and so on. And it is advisable from a spiritual perspective and from a micro-sociological perspective to ease up. You don't have to quit immediately. I always advocate for change, not in an overnight sense, but change in a transitional sense. Transition your behavior. Don't eliminate certain things from your consumption. If you watch news 5 times a day and it fills your head with nonsense, it means that you should probably watch news 3 times a week. Well, 5 times a week if you used to watch it 3 times a week now, then watch it once a week, and then don't watch it at all, right? And this is how you can empower yourself to become the greatest version of you through the alignment with spiritual law and through sociology. So I have been, I am, and I will continue to teach sociology along with the spiritual laws of the universe, even though the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago has not processed my application, nor have I received a call to teach what I was called here to teach. What I was called here to teach, right? I will teach it, nevertheless, and I will do so outside of your mainstream education system.